Tonight, multiple Ontario doctors diagnose a crisis in our COVID response.
This pandemic, unfortunately, is out of control, especially in Southern Ontario.
From packed malls to stunt rallies, we'll show you why doctors are on edge as the long weekend nears its end.
It's horrific. I mean, this child thought he was dying.
Plus, a dangerous case of mistaken identity. A black 17-year-old boy is arrested in error. His family says he was the victim of racial profiling by police.
It was a very disturbing experience for us.
And the trip to a bookstore ends with a family being escorted out. Why Indigo is claiming no exceptions to its mask policy.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We're now 2 days into a province-wide shutdown as Ontario tries to gain back some ground it's lost to the surging third wave of COVID-19. And while more people are already struggling with the disease in Ontario ICUs than at any point in the pandemic, medical experts are demanding a more targeted vaccine response. Talia Ricci has their dire warning tonight.
This is the biggest crisis in modern Ontario hospital history.
There are currently 467 COVID patients in Ontario ICUs, far above the height of the second wave. And the CEO of Ontario's Hospital Association says it's only going to get worse.
Within a matter of a few short weeks, it seems very probable that our intensive care units are going to run out of space completely. That is why you see so many physicians in particular panicked
And speaking out.
We are seeing our hospitals really full to the brim.
Multiple admissions overnight with really young patients.
We're at over 100% constantly.
It's a new pandemic now.
This is a new disease I am scared of.
Underscoring the strain and heartache healthcare workers are feeling. Dr. Michael Warner shared the story of his patient, a woman in her 40s who died on Saturday away from her family.
They didn't get to see her from the moment that she entered the hospital. They'll never see her.
17 healthcare providers tried to save her life. She was infected by her husband, who's an essential factory worker.
Those stories get played out over and over again in hospitals all across this country, and these people have no protection. And I'm tired of it. I can't take it anymore. It's not fair.
Contributing to rising emotions, scenes like this in one Toronto mall, still allowed to be open with the current restrictions. Along with their frustrations, doctors are sharing what they think needs to happen to slow this virus down. They're calling on officials for paid sick leave, vaccines for essential workers, and for those who live in hotspots.
We need equity now here. Means we need to get the vaccines to those people who need it most right now, and everybody will benefit from that.
Anthony Dale says overwhelmed ICUs could result in doctors making life or death choices.
You're invoking the triage tool, which means physicians having to make choices that they should never be asked to make. This virus, if it hasn't touched you yet, in all probability, before this is over, it will.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Due to the holiday, Ontario did not release the number of new COVID-19 infections recorded today. Those numbers will be included in the release tomorrow. But over the course of Friday and Saturday, Ontario logged more than 6,000 new cases. Meanwhile, the province has announced the new person who's in charge of Ontario's vaccine rollout. Dr. Homer Tien is a trauma surgeon and also the president and CEO of Orange Air Ambulance. He will become the operational lead of the COVID-19 Distribution Task Force of Ontario. Dr. Tien will be taking over from retired General Rick Hillier, whose last day was just this past week. Tien had been working closely with the province in delivering vaccines to some of its remote First Nation communities. And a boost to the vaccine program. He'll be taking over. Ontario received just over 225,000 doses of the Moderna vaccine this weekend. This is in addition to the more than 500,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine Ontario got on Thursday. Meanwhile, Toronto continues its long weekend push to get shots in arms. According to the city's latest update, more than 560,000 doses have been administered, and the city will be providing an update tomorrow with the latest numbers. Now, in York Region, just over 193,000 vaccines have been administered so far. Toronto police are investigating after a stunt car rally in North York was the scene of a blazing ring of fire after dozens of people gathered. With crowds looking on, suspects lit the road on fire. Police say they received multiple calls around 2:25 this morning. When they arrived to the area of McNichol and Placer Court, police say officers were met with hostility. Police say a cruiser was swarmed and people jumped on the car. Eventually, the crowd dispersed. At least one person has been charged with stunt driving, but an investigation is currently ongoing. Now, in a statement, Mayor John Tory had this to say: the gathering of any large group of people right now is unacceptable, let alone a group of people gathering to participate in illegal activity that is ridiculously dangerous, along with causing unnecessary disruption and noise. The mayor also went on to say that those who go against the public health guidelines and break the rules should be prepared to face the consequences. Now to a story of a Black Toronto teen whose family says he was racially profiled by police. Undercover officers surrounded and handcuffed the teen, only to find out after he was not their suspect after all. Lauren Pelly has the story, and the family now on the hunt for some accountability.
Holy shit, we literally parked.
Video shared on social media shows a chaotic scene near Don Mills and Finch. Cars surrounding a vehicle, and later someone face down on the ground being arrested by police. Officers thought this was who they were apprehending last Wednesday. 21-year-old Kwame Garwood, a suspect wanted in both a murder case and a recent kidnapping. But instead, they arrested this 17-year-old from Toronto, whose name CBC Toronto isn't sharing to maintain the teen's privacy.
We should all be very concerned that this is the best police work that they could come up with, arresting a 17-year-old Black child that looks nothing like the actual suspect.
Dave Bosveld is a godparent to all 5 children in the teen's family and is acting as their spokesperson. He says his godson was surrounded by undercover police who smashed open a window, fired a flashbang to disorient him, then dragged him out and handcuffed him, leaving him with bumps and bruises that prompted police to take him to hospital as a precaution.
It's horrific. I mean, this child thought he was dying, right? People coming at him from all directions, unmarked. Vehicles ramming his vehicle and boxing him in.
Bosveld also says it could have been even worse.
And I think everybody is relieved that we're not doing an autopsy on a 17-year-old kid, right? Because these interactions often go badly.
The family now wants accountability and launched a fundraising campaign to afford a lawyer, saying both Peel and Toronto police racially profiled a Black teenager and used excessive force.
This isn't something we wanted. It was regrettable that it was the wrong individual.
Peel police say it all started with a tip.
We can only act with the information that we are given, and obviously the officers were acting in good faith with this information that they believe to be credible.
Today, all is calm in the Toronto neighborhood where the case of mistaken identity took place. But for this teen and his family, last Wednesday is a day they'll never forget.
They're traumatized. They're in a lot of pain right now. Like, they can't imagine how this could have happened to their son. And they want justice, and they want accountability, and they want the truth.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Police have identified the victim in a shooting that left one man dead and another man with non-life-threatening injuries. They are still searching for 2 suspects.
It was a motor vehicle collision not too far from this location, and the suspects fled on foot. We had canine officers and officers securing the area to search for those suspects. That search is ongoing.
The victim has been identified as 21-year-old Habil Abdullahi Hassan. Police say the shooting happened around 5:30 last night in Etobicoke, and they say two men were driving when a vehicle drove beside them and began to shoot. Shortly after the shooting, the suspect vehicle was involved in a collision. The suspects then fled on foot, and police are asking anybody that may have witnessed this incident to come forward. Turning to North York now, where a man is dead after a stabbing near Finch and Don Mills Road. He has been identified as 75-year-old Ka Chai Ho. A 62-year-old woman has been charged with first-degree murder, and police say the two people are married. The victim was rushed to hospital where he died. And a man is recovering in hospital after a car chase that happened early this morning near Jane and Finch. Police say a vehicle was chasing another and gunshots were fired. The vehicle being chased flipped over and collided into a fence. The victim's injuries were due to the collision, and the suspects fled the scene. Officers again are appealing for witnesses. Taking you to Mississauga now, where demonstrators from South Asian communities gathered today to march in solidarity with farmers and workers in India. Since November, tens of thousands of farmers have been camping outside New Delhi in protest to the government's farm laws passed in September of last year. The farmers say the new laws will hand control over crop prices to large corporations and destroy livelihoods. So far, negotiations between farmer leaders and the government have failed. All right, a lot of heaviness in the show tonight. Sophia Kambalia is here, though, with some news that might brighten us up, I think.
Well, it was a typical Bluebird long weekend for this Easter. It's the kind of weekend and the kind of temperatures which, if we saw in mid or early May, we'd be pretty happy. And you know what? Some nice weather on some sad news, and with the lockdown or shutdown, makes everything seem a little better to get out in the sunshine. You'll have lots of opportunities for that over the next week, and hopefully if the Easter Bunny came to your home, he was smarter than what he left at ours, which was a lot of chocolate eggs in the sunshine, because boy did we have a warm-up and Bluebird clear skies throughout the day for your Easter Sunday. A little more cloud throughout the day Monday and over the next 24 hours or so, but we warm up quite nice into the overnight period. We'll be feeling at the freezing mark, which is really nice for any of the flowers that you have in the ground right now. 3 degrees into the overnight, but we hold on to those chilly temperatures for your Monday morning as well. Shoulder seasons, remember. So you want to dress in any layers if you are off for the Easter Monday and planning an early morning walk. We warm up really nicely for midday. 11 degrees, feeling like 10, a nice southerly flow. We should be about 9 this time of year. So we're actually above seasonal, and I'll show you in a second, we're above seasonal really for the long extended weekend stretch. So there's your good news. Over 12 hours of sunshine throughout the day as well, and it continues for an extended period. Even keel, warm, dry, and mild is the name of the game for this upcoming work week. And we actually hit the mid-teens, midweek. Those are the temperatures, more reminiscent of mid or even early May, so it's a bonus right now. Next chance for showers is late day Tuesday into pre-dawn Wednesday. It'll be done by the time you wake up on Wednesday morning. So enjoy the next couple days. Dry, mild, lots of time for social distance walks out in the woods. Real rain returns, though, for the weekend. We'll talk about that in the long range, Chris.
Chocolate, eggs, and sunshine. Not a bad way to spend a Sunday.
I hear you.
Thanks, Sophia.
A crown of thorns placed on his head. He knew that he would soon be dead.
Here's another thing that might boost your mood. Two sisters from Fort Francis, Ontario, have gone viral singing their version of Leonard Cohen's classic Hallelujah. The lyrics of the original song have been replaced to tell the story of Easter. Callahan and Cassandra Starr Armstrong recorded the song as a gift for their grandparents, and their video has racked up almost 3 million hits on YouTube. Stay with us. Welcome back. After being told to leave a bookstore in Mississauga this past week, a mother is now advocating for her 6-year-old son with autism, who she says should be exempt from wearing a mask. Our Dahlia Ashry has their story.
I'm really pissed off right now. I'm shaking.
Frustrated and disappointed, Mehreen Khan, the mother of a 6-year-old boy with autism, took to her social media on Thursday after her family had just dropped by this Indigo bookstore in Mississauga.
So we all had our masks on, except for my younger son, who has autism.
Khan says she was allowed to enter the store. Once she was inside, she says an employee made her aware of the store policy that her son had to wear a mask or they had to leave. Khan says she was heading out the door when she was approached again, this time by the store supervisor.
My son has autism and he's exempt from wearing a mask. And he's like, well, this is our store policy. We're a private company and we can say whatever we want.
Infectious disease expert Dr. Anna Banerjee says there are exemptions to not wearing a mask.
A significantly autistic child or a child that wouldn't understand that, or a child who's developmentally delayed, it might be very difficult for that child to keep the mask on.
Khan says it's not just about keeping it on, but the mask could be a health hazard for her son.
It's a sensory issue. He starts chewing on it, which can be an issue, like a safety concern.
Under the Ontario Human Rights Code, those under the age of 2 are exempt from wearing a mask, and people with certain disabilities like autism. But in a statement to CBC, Indigo says they are dedicated to serving their customers under these unique circumstances and continue to offer a variety of accommodations to fully serve those who can't wear masks. The company says those include online shopping, home delivery, and curbside pickup.
We need to respect the exemptions that are there. But then again, anyone without a mask right now really shouldn't be doing any non-essential shopping at all.
While Khan says she understands the policies, she doesn't plan on going back, but she hopes people will be more compassionate.
If someone is genuinely telling you that, unfortunately my son can't wear a mask because he has autism, don't shrug them off. Understand the situation.
Khan still plans on taking the matter to head office after the long weekend. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Mississauga.
Turning now to some international stories, and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is preparing to outline plans for a so-called vaccine passport. A series of test trials are aimed at allowing people to attend entertainment venues and sports events with proof they don't pose a risk of spreading COVID-19. Dominic Velitis has the details.
Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson will be giving more details tomorrow, but we know at least 2 big sporting events, a comedy club and a cinema, have already signed up for this trial, which starts in 2 weeks and will last until mid-May. The idea is that people turning up to one of the venues taking part will have to present a pass or certificate showing proof of having been vaccinated, a recent negative COVID test, or natural immunity to the disease, i.e. they've tested positive for COVID in the last 6 months. As I say, it is just a trial. Government ministers will use evidence from it to see if passes or certificates are workable, if they can be rolled out in other settings across the country. The idea is a controversial one. It certainly has its critics. Indeed, a cross-party group of more than 70 MPs have already signed a pledge opposing vaccine passports if they've become known, describing them as divisive and discriminatory, even un-British. Others, meanwhile, are concerned about privacy and even how these passes could lead to giving people a false sense of security about COVID, possibly encourage them to lower their guard when it comes to social distancing. The idea of vaccine passports, though, isn't going away here in the UK, so expect some fierce debate about this trial and their use in the coming days and weeks. Dominic Velitis, CBC News, Bristol, England.
And speaking of COVID not going away, France has entered its 3rd national lockdown of the pandemic. Non-essential stores are closed as of today, and travel restrictions that are being enforced in Paris are being extended across the entire country. An overnight curfew is in place, and schools are closed to in-person learning. France now regularly posts more than 40,000 confirmed cases each day. The lockdown measures will remain in place for at least the next 4 weeks. And a lot closer to home, here is a live look at Parliament Hill tonight. The Prime Minister shared his Easter message with Canadians. We'll have more on that coming up, plus your long-range forecast. Stay with us.
May Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
St. Michael's Cathedral held its Easter Sunday Mass today. Thomas Collins is a Canadian Cardinal for the Catholic Church, and he hosted the special Mass. Those who attended in person had to register in advance. The Mass, though, was also broadcast live online. The Prime Minister posted his Easter message today, and he reflected on this being the second Easter of the pandemic and on a traditional celebration being once again called off.
I know that these activities just aren't the same over Zoom or on the phone, but we can still find ways to celebrate and reflect on Jesus' message of compassion, kindness, and hope, because now those values are more important than ever. At our house, Sophie and I will still help the kids hunt for Easter eggs, and as a family, we'll try to get outside and enjoy the spring weather. I'm lucky to have the people I love the most living in the same household as me, but I know for many Canadians, this Easter will be another holiday spent alone. So today, let's make sure we check in on the ones we love and let's share the hope and joy of this day with those who may be isolated. My friends, soon this crisis will end, and when it does, we will build a stronger and more resilient country together.
Nice message of unity there from the Prime Minister. And as he's talking about isolation, and you were talking about those chocolate eggs that you had at your house, all I was thinking was maybe you get to have more of those all to yourself, Sophia.
I was telling Maribel yesterday that I put them all away in the freezer because we've had too many all to ourselves the last little while.
Never too many chocolate eggs.
No, they're gone till next year. Halloween candy we just finished, and now it's right into Easter as well. But certainly, it's nice talking about the chocolate and the Easter eggs and all these signs of brighter times ahead, right? I got flowers sprouting in my lawn, so lots of nice things to talk about, especially, finally, for this long week's forecast. There's been the last few weeks where I've had bad news. We had the snow on April Fool's Day. We've had some cold spells. That will not be the case this upcoming work week. A warming trend, mild and dry, and above seasonal, the three things that I love to be able to tell you in the weekly highlights. So Monday, probably your coolest day of the work week, and the temperatures are above seasonal. Maybe a light passing shower for those of you in southwestern Ontario. A little bit cooler for those of you around the lake shores. Tuesday, that warmth builds in and heads further north. 14 in Huntsville for Tuesday. Are you heading up to the cottage? Very nice. Everybody picks a little bit more warmth as it builds in, the warmth rather, on Wednesday, and then have a look at Thursday. It's the showstopper day, flirting with and maybe even exceeding 20-degree warmth. Finally, yes, we deserve it, especially if we're going to be spending a little bit more time around home. And here is the reason why we are dealing with such a nice extended forecast. Big sprawling ridge of high pressure goes all the way from the Gulf of Mexico up to the Great Lakes. It's a clockwise and southerly flow of warm Gulf moisture around it right to us. So we are locked into almost early summer-like heat right across the board, except for into the weekend when the better chance of heavier rain comes in. The flowers need it, though. In the meantime, get out and water, because we do have extended dry and kind of warm and windy periods as well. So enjoy the forecast.
It looks dynamite. I can't wait for that Thursday.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Sophia. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime. Just head to our website, cbc.ca/Toronto. Have a great night.